Okay, our participant numbers have slowed down, so I think that's time for us to make a start. Good morning all, and thank you for joining us today. I hope you're finding the conference inspiring so far. We're here at the St Martin's Frontline Network Annual Conference 2024. Thank you for making time in your schedule. I know everyone's really busy, so we hope to add some value to your day today. We are recording this session. Hopefully you've had that notification, so that means if you miss anything or if you want to share the information with teams, colleagues, wider networks, the information will be available to share. The links and various resources that we'll have on screen probably won't work on the screen, but we'll make sure that the slides get shared, and there'll also be a number of further resources. There's all kinds of links and info that we've pulled together that we'll put into an information pack and provide after the session. My name is Zoe. I'm your host for today. I run the Coventry Frontline Network based at Coventry Citizens Advice. We're here to support people working on the front line of homelessness, whether that's the public, statutory or voluntary sector, and we support people in Coventry and the wider Midlands area as part of our local work as a local partner of the national network. So that's me. If you'd like to introduce yourselves as well, there is a chat function you should see somewhere in a little toolbar somewhere. So feel free to introduce yourself. It'd be great to know who we've got here, what kind of roles you do. If you have any further resources and information we can gather, that would be great. If you have a specific question for our panelists, please use the Q&A function rather than the chat, and we will attempt to gather up some questions at the end. We've got a Q&A session towards the end of today where we'll try and pick out some themes and have a further discussion with our panels. So we expect to finish at 1 o'clock, just in time for lunch. So hopefully on the screen you can see universal credit, managed migration and beyond. If I can I'll set the scene a little bit. In terms of what managed migration is, it's also known as Move to UC, and this is the movement of people who are currently in receipt of the 6 legacy benefits that universal credit replaces, and the process that they will need to follow when those legacy benefits end and they need to move across to universal credit. There are very specific processes, there are very specific timescales, there are phrases and terms that relate to this process that are sort of new and are specific to managed migration. So that's what we're here to talk about today. We called it managed migration and beyond, very Buzz Lightyear, really in recognition of the fact that some of the barriers or issues that you might encounter with managed migration processes will be very similar to standard universal credit issues that you might already have come across with the clients that you're supporting. So hopefully this will be a useful session for you today, whether you're dealing with day-to-day universal credit issues or specifically managed migration. And when we thought about sort of planning this process, I think we've naturally focused particularly on the employment and support allowance group of the legacy ESA claimants that are going to be moving across, really in recognition that they are likely to have higher support needs than an average universal credit claim. And just to focus the mind, if I can find my screen. The timetable is there, so you can see what we mean when we talk about legacy benefits. These are the ones that we mean. And the point there that we were expecting ESA cases to begin to migrate from 2028. The expectation is now that that process will start from September of this year. So hopefully you can see it's important, and it's important now that we kind of share this information and make sure we're all aware that this process is happening. So in terms of what today's session is, we're not here to deliver training. So this isn't line-by-line calculations of UC or eligibility criteria. I'm sure our panelists will be relieved to know. If you are interested in training and that kind of lower level expertise, there are lots of trainers out there. Child Poverty Action Group, RightsNet will list lots of training that's available. It does tend to have a fee associated with it when it's welfare benefits training. So if I can take the chance just to flag, the Frontline Network has a national training fund for frontline workers to apply to. So if this is something you'd like to explore in more detail but don't have the budgets within your existing project, have a look at the web address that's there on the screen, so frontlinenetwork.org.uk. We've got some funding available to support frontline workers with the training that they might need. So rather than going into in-depth training today, we've brought together a group of people with expertise across this subject to really raise awareness of the managed migration processes, to familiarise you with some of those terms that you might hear that will indicate something might be a managed migration case. And also really just to signpost people to what support there is. Where there are challenges, there may be ways that we can all share across our sectors to overcome them and support the clients that we're supporting to make that claim. I think we're all on the same page. We want people to be able to claim what they're entitled to. So that's what we're here to help everyone do. So that's enough from me. Let's introduce our experts. If I can ask people just to say hello, introduce themselves from our panel. Ali, could I ask you to speak first? And then Tess, I'll come to you.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Ali Markantonis, and I have been a welfare benefits advisor or worked within the welfare benefits system since 1983. So I've seen lots of changes, and by far, I think universal credit is one of the biggest ones. I currently work on the Frontline in a small supported accommodation, supporting rough sleepers, supporting ex-offenders as well as staff and support workers. But I've moved on now I train on a national level across the UK via Housing Quality Network and Brett Grelier Psychology Services, because the other hat I wear is I'm also a psychotherapist. So yes, we offer lots of support to the homelessness sector and outreach to the homeless themselves.
Fantastic. Yeah, breadth of experience there. Thank you. Tess, could I ask you to introduce yourself, and then Charlie, I'll come to you.
Hi everyone, I am Tess Tainton. I work on the ListenUp project at Groundswell. Groundswell is a health and homelessness charity. The ListenUp project is primarily a community reporting project, and I support people with lived experience of homelessness and health inequalities to tell their stories in a way that they want to tell them. We also do peer-led research and provide rights-based training within our project.
Thank you, Tess. Charlie, could I invite you to say a bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm Charlie Radbourne. I'm a community reporter at the ListenUp hub at Groundswell, where you get people with lived experience writing out reports from their own experiences and also from experiences of other people going through it at the moment, of the barriers put up there to stop them, basically.
Thank you, Charlie. And Julie, obviously you are.
Hi, I'm Julie Casson. So I'm Partnership Manager for DWP, and I cover the coastal job centres here in the northwest. So I cover Blackpool, which is my obviously main big one, and I also cover St Anne's and Fleetwood job centres.
Lovely. Thank you all for joining us this morning. As I say, I will stop talking now and hand over to the experts. Ali, I hope I haven't preempted any of the questions that you'll be asking in your section, but I will hand over to you now. I will try and follow the slides as we go through. Let me know if I need to move along and keep up. I may need to do something to enable some chat. So if I look a bit distracted and I'm rummaging around on screen somewhere, that's what I'm doing. So apologies if the chat isn't open at the moment. I'll see if I can fix that. So while I have a look at that behind the scenes, Ali, over to you.
There you go. Zoom 101. Unmute yourself. Yeah, so I put some contact details on there for everybody. So can we have the next slide, please, Zoe? Fabulous. So there, I thought it would be fun to just have a poll just with 6 questions, just to kind of test what everybody currently knows about universal credit, managed migration in particular. If you don't know, please do just have a guess. Okay, so we're only going to see the numbers of what people are saying, not who's saying what. So there's 6 questions. So Zoe will give a certain amount of time and scroll down as we go. So if you could select A, B, or C on each of them, and then we will go through the answers. Okay. Question 1 then. The move to UC is made up of a process of 3 ways that someone can end their legacy claim and start claiming universal credit. And it is indeed the managed migration, and that is being managed by DWP. So the only protection that might be available for the natural migration or the voluntary migration would be the severe disability premium. So those people that have the severe disability premium in their legacy benefits, not just housing benefit. So yeah, 78% of you, fantastic, managed migration. And I think it's really important that the clients know the difference, because if they go too early, then they can be worse off. Okay. Question 2, claimants selected to claim universal credit through the managed migration will have how much notice by receiving that migration notice? How much notice does the DWP give? So the correct answer there is A, 3 months plus 1 day from the date of letter. Okay, and I think that's really important. It's the 3 months and 1 day from the date of the notice. The 4 months is a little red herring there, and the bigger red herring, which 42% of people went for, was the 1 calendar month plus 7 days from the date of the letter. Well, that 1 calendar month plus 7 days is how long the monthly assessment period is, the 1 calendar month plus 7 days, and then they get their first payment. Okay, so that was the red herring there. Okay, fabulous. Can you scroll up for me, please, Zoe, so I can't see all of the answers.
Sorry, yeah, it's scrolled up on mine, so we're on question 3 on my screen.
Right, okay, yeah,
Do you want me to read
question
out?
3. No, it's all right. The date given on the migration notice letter is called the claim by date, or claim by day, deadline day, or final deadline day. Well, the answer there is B. It's the deadline day. So here we've got some new language coming in. The deadline day. Okay. So in next question, sometimes I refer to it as the claim by date, but that's because I can't give away the answer. So yeah, deadline day. Okay. Question 4, reminders will be sent to claimants at what intervals? So the reminders, once somebody has received their migration notice, the reminders will be sent to claimants at B, week 7 and week 10. Okay, so week 7 and week 10. So the week 7 will be in the form usually of a letter, I understand, and then at week 10 it will be by text if possible. So I think one really important thing for us to work with clients is to make sure that the DWP have got all the updated contact details. And while we're talking about also their updated income if they have it, or you know, all of their who's living with them, that kind of thing. So week 7 and week 10. Question 5, service users who do not make a claim by the claim date or the deadline day will have their legacy benefits stopped. But there are some special rules in place that state that if they don't make the claim by then their claim will can be automatically backdated, provided that they make. Sorry, bear with me. Okay. So the back date. So there are special rules that if they start to make a claim by that date, can their claim be automatically backdated and keep their eligibility for transitional protection? So I'm not sure that question is, so well done on answering that. So if they don't make their claim by their deadline day, there's these special backdate rules that says that their claim will automatically be backdated and they'll keep their transitional protection as long as they do it by, and you are correct, one universal credit assessment period. Question 6, final question. It might sometimes be appropriate to extend someone's claim deadline day. What's the maximum period that can be applied for an extension by the DWP? And the maximum period is B, 4 weeks. And the really important thing to note about the extension is that the request must be in 1 week before the deadline day. Okay, there might be circumstances where it can be shorter, but the DWP have requested that people make their extension request from 1 week before their deadline day, and it can be extended for a period of 4 weeks. It can only be extended. The extension can only happen if somebody requests it before the deadline day. That's the key importance there. The number of extensions by law aren't defined, and I think it's working in practice, according to the Child Poverty Action Group at the moment, who have gathered that information, that it is kind of be extended maybe twice, but there's problems when it comes to extending a third. But I would say that actually, if you're looking at a long kind of term extension, there might be a case to asking for the notice to be cancelled. So if somebody knows that they're going to have problems, so they've got, you know, good reason, then to make that up to 1 week before the deadline day. And the good reason that's given, I'll include them in the pack that comes out afterwards, so there'll be more information there, is things like not engaging until near the deadline day, needing more time to get evidence to make the claim, or needing more time to get support. And you access the extension by phoning the Managed Migration Helpline. Okay. So moving on then, can we go to slide 5? That's the one. So I've just done a pretty little visual for people, just as a reminder. You get served, your client will get the migration notice, then there's a period of 3 months to make that claim. That will be the deadline day, and then there'll be, as long as you make a claim within 1 universal credit assessment period, so 1 month later, then there's the final deadline day. And I think it's really important that the final deadline day you won't find mentioned anywhere in any of the information to claimants. And I think that's really important, because I don't know about your claimants, but many of mine will leave it till that final deadline before they even make a start, and that means they're going to lose out. Okay, so can we go to slide 8, please? Zoe. Okay, so I just want to touch a little bit, and particularly from the managed migration support, is that there is a separate helpline that has been introduced. There's also the help to claim service with a citizen's advice that has been refunded. And I think the good thing, I'm sure Zoe will tell us a little bit more about that, but I think the good thing about the help to claim service is not only does it give people choice, but they won't just help to claim, they will support the client holistically until the first correct payment is in place. So looking around for any additional financial support and things like that that they might need during that time. Then there's the offline claims, which was originally introduced for rough sleepers. And the offline claim is like an old clerical claim. And that's accessed again by calling the helpline, where they will make arrangements, DWP will make arrangements to give your client a callback I am aware, having used the service myself, that there can be problems with that. But where people have been refused, or in the first instance asked why I can't support them with their claim ongoing, and that's not something that we are necessarily able to do. I want to ensure that, more importantly, my clients can be helped by the DWP where they can't manage an online claim. So moving a bit forward. So that isn't particular to managed migration. That's a reminder that this exists. There's also some guidance from the DWP for help if your client has accessibility needs. And again, these are general. And then there's this new Move to UC website, and there are lots of leaflets, a toolkit, there's step-by-step guides, there's videos, there's British Sign Language videos, easy reads, all of that information, together with lots of promotional material that can be downloaded, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel. And it just seems at the moment that those people who can't use a computer are being advised to phone the Move to UC helpline, just to let people know that. But remember the offline claims that would need to be asked for. Next slide, please, Zoe. And I think as we've come through the UC journey, it has been recognised that the DWP are now recognising vulnerability, and I hope to hear from Julie a bit later how the DWP is supporting those that are kind of migrated to universal credit if they are our more vulnerable clients, like those who have complex needs. The enhanced support journey, which is slightly different because it has been updated from its previous the discovery phase, and it's different interventions. They're going to be calling, they're going to be system checks. Again, really important that the DWP have the contact details, home visits, and contact within the local community and other people who are helping and supporting. And then if all of those options have been exhausted, before they stop someone's benefit, they will hold a case conference. So I think really in many cases, most of the additional help and support is likely to be provided by those of us that support clients, and citizens' advice, and families, landlords, and other support services. So please ask your questions, and I look forward to answering some of those. Thanks, Zoe.
Thank you, Ali. Absolutely perfect timing. Thank you so much. Yeah, the Q&A box is along the bottom or along the top or somewhere on your screen if you've got some specific questions that we can pick up towards the end. Certainly lots of sort of new terminology there that hopefully will help, you know, frontline workers realise if a client mentions some of those phrases, then you're possibly dealing with a managed migration case. So you've got specific timescales to act within. I mean, even just to step back to the start of the process, it's worth saying if somebody makes a UC claim before they receive that migration notice, it won't be treated necessarily as a migration, which means you could lose out on some of the additional support that you might otherwise get with a true migration case. So it's worth just being aware that somebody might get an information letter that just says it's coming, but unless a letter says there's a deadline date, that's the key, that's the trigger then to take action, and then action needs to happen after that point within those timescales. So yeah, lots to think about, and I'm sure, as Ali says, in terms of the kind of support that we can expect to provide as support agencies with those more vulnerable clients, I'm sure people here will recognise, you know, some of those challenges. They'll be supporting clients with those additional needs. So we really wanted to acknowledge that and explore some of the impact that it can have have on the clients that we're working with. So I'm really pleased to introduce Tess and Charlie, who we've heard from briefly already. Yes, to hand over to you to have a bit of a chat about the research and the work that you've done in terms of looking at what the impacts are on clients where that support isn't available and they're not able to access the entitlements that they're due. So I will stop sharing my screen for a while and pop you both on screen and hand over to you. I'll give you a 3-minute warning if we're running close to time, but otherwise it's entirely within your hands. Thank you.
Thank you. So yeah, Charlie and I are here from Groundswell. And before I introduce Charlie and we have a bit of a chat about the work that he does as an advocate as well as a community reporter, I wanted to quote some research that Groundswell did back in 2020, just to kind of set the scene for the challenges that clients have already gone through to get to this point. And it kind of helps to consider what challenges may be coming up ahead with the migration process. So in 2020, Groundswell published a piece of research called Benefits for Health, which explored how health and welfare systems are experienced by people experiencing homelessness and how the two systems intersect and impact on people's lives. A benefits advisor was interviewed for this and shared an example of challenges that clients face while accessing online systems. They've said they've seen clients who can barely read text messages sent to them, so the likelihood that they will log into a computer on their own, especially if they're rough sleeping or just going from area to area, staying with friends and haven't got stable accommodation. They've not been aware of what they've been asked to do. With one client I supported, it wasn't just missing appointments. It was purely that I couldn't get in touch with her. She didn't have a phone. She was so chaotic, it was impossible to find her. And then she would get sanctioned and couldn't get anywhere to stay. Participants spoke of the problematic and the burdensome process of applying for benefits, and they commonly described how engaging with the benefit system impacted on their well-being, using phrases like nervous, panicky, suicidal, and stressed to describe their experiences. And this is a quote from somebody who was interviewed for the research. If it wasn't for my mental health advisor doing the forms, I never would have been on benefits. I wouldn't have even got started with the process. It's just such a pain. I was unwell to the point where I didn't know what the lady was doing when she set me up. And I just continued getting the benefits. I don't understand the process. I just signed the paperwork and that was it. So with that setting the scene, I would like to talk to Charlie. Charlie, could you tell us a little bit about the advocacy work that you do?
Yeah, I do some work with outcome homes where we work with people who are street homeless. It's peer mentoring, so we're bridging the gap between the clients and the services. We work with people in hostels, in day centres, people who are vulnerable, and that various ones, mainly people with vulnerabilities, covering the whole quest. Yeah, so I work with generally all those type of people that have been pushed through on the system.
Okay, that's great. What have been your experiences of seeing people going through the migration process?
Right, I've heard all the stuff that come out today about the help and everything that's there. The reality, unfortunately, is different from what's been said. It really is luck of the draw. You can end up talking to someone who has compassion, has a bit of empathy there, and they really do help you. But there is a lot within the job centres and the helplines and that are not very helpful at all. And they treat it as a job. And they are very short, they are very quick, and they tend to push you away. So I don't know what the training goes on there, but we found mainly that people with empathy have been doing the job a lot longer. But yeah, no difficulties on it. Clients getting the notices, people especially with severe mental health problems, they don't tell you about it, they stick their head in the sand. And you hear about it at the last minute, so everything is a rush to get on there. And to try and to get the extensions, it's not easy. Regardless of what's been said here and what happens across. And It's literally the whole process is they don't understand it. Getting people, see, they're rough sleeping or something like that. Generally, their address is a day centre or somewhere where they can get. And believe me, the post office is not as good as it used to be at delivering letters. And so them actually receiving the letters in the first place, pretty remote. And receiving the letters and letting someone know because they're panicking, because fear of change is massive with these people. It really is big. I don't think they realise how big that fear is. And then actually engaging with it, because they're just frightened, and engaging with it. It's terrible. And then once they do start engaging it, you're getting the help. They're relying on, if they're lucky, if they can get someone to advocate for them, which is generally down to the third sector. And as you know, the third sector is having loads of cuts at the moment because of all the different types of councils. And so they're stretched and it's harder to get people through. It sounds, when you read out all the stuff from what the job centre are doing and what's available, reality is something completely different. And it is hard to get people through on it. And then the other thing is they have to ask the questions to get it. The transitional payments, they have to ask. They don't get told about. They have to ask that matter. They don't realise that their money is going to be stopped. And then the reality is they're going to have about 3 weeks with no money whatsoever. They don't realise that, and they don't know about the bridging loans or anything like that. They're not told about that. They have to ask. The information needs to come from both sides, so they're more informed. I don't know what the training is down there. I gather it's supposed to be done that way, but it's not. I can guarantee you that in reality of the world. And yeah, it is. It's a harrowing experience, and it's affecting their health. It's affecting everything that's going along. I mean, you can go through and read stories through coroners and reports written in papers, quality papers, where they would tell the effects it will have on people. And it is horrendous as what it is, and the fear. And these are the things that we're trying to stop, and we're trying to work with it. But we do need a little bit more help. And I gather there is some more help coming through, but I haven't seen it as yet.
What do you think would help? I think the system is what it is. It's not going to change, or at least it's not going to change.
No,
so what could help in the immediate?
In the immediate one is a little bit of give from the DWP, a little bit of understanding these people. If they have phones, they sell them, whether that's to get stuff or to put bread on the table. It can be either. They have them stolen, they get broken, or they just don't understand them, and they end up with these little brick phones that have no internet and can't do anything. So all they can do is receive a message or a phone call, and even then they run out of credit and they can't afford a credit to do it. And pay as you go is quite expensive to get internet payments to pay up for the internet connection. So that's another thing that goes through on it. So we need help on that, but it's an understanding that these people need that extra little bit to help. And it is a case of the DWP outreaching to services where they know these people go to and getting them to interact, to bridge that gap so that these people can help, because most of them are not capable or are struggling so much that they can't do it themselves. And the ultimate thing on it, I'm going to say, is something that's probably not very nice, but the UC the UC system is draconian and punitive, and that's not what you need with these people. You need them to have help and to understand that it's not going to cut them off.
I suppose digital exposure, it's something that we talk about a lot
it's massive.
And it's tricky because everything's now become digital. We're doing this conference digitally. But people have pointed out things like, to get onto library computers, you often now need to provide proof of address or have an address for that, and you need ID for everything up to voting now. You need ID. So is there something that you think maybe Jobcentres could do to help with that process?
Yeah, there is a lot, because you've got to remember these people are on the fringe of society, and the job centre needs to understand that and to reach out and make it easier. Now, I'm not going to have a dig at all people. So I know some lovely people working in a job centre. They do some fantastic work, and they do a lot of work off their own back. I don't think is appreciated by the job centre, and they actually reach out and do that extra, go that extra mile to help these people on the fringes. I'd like to see that become part of the job centre's narrative, that it becomes part of their training, so all people are led to believe. I know they have their problems, and they talk about people with lived experience, and yeah, they need to understand people with lived experience of homelessness, addiction, mental health, and that kind of thing. But also we need to know more of their experiences and the troubles that they do. So there's a balance. So we have to put an understanding between the two sides. That has to be some way worked out. But yeah, no, as I say, it is because they're incapable of reaching out. So it is down to the DWP to have some compassion to reach out to them.
I suppose the final question is, have you seen any good practice that people could kind of go away and think about?
As I said, I've met some terrific people in job centres that are behind the counter who have an empathy and have done that, but they're too few and far between. And that's been great. And I got to say, Citizens Advice, they are we always fall back on them. It's our last resort. But there's some great services out there by the third sector that are doing their bit. Outreach, the job centre needs to use outreach more, because outreach know where these people are and know what these people are like, so they need to use outreach more. And there's some great people out there who are going above and beyond to get these people on the fringe so that they don't lose out. And believe me, they do lose out a lot.
It's great. Talking to you always, you're like a font of knowledge when it comes to benefits and rights and stuff, and it constantly reminds me of the amazing work that advocates do, and we need more advocates. We need more people who are kind of with those experiences who can go and support people.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of questions that are never answered. Was one, as I say, it's what's happened to these people that get lost in the system because they can't contact them. There's other things like where the people who are on ESA are doing permitted work. What happens to them and their permitted work when they get transferred over? Nobody's given an answer to that one as yet.
Maybe somebody will have an answer for us here.
Because I don't know. I haven't seen it.
I think that's about it. I'm trying to limit my questions because we could, well, even when we've just been chatting before this conference, we've been talking for hours. Yeah, I think that's about it. Hand it back to you, Zoe.
Thank you both. Yes, I mean, lots of input there. Thank you for sharing your insight and the experiences that you've seen. I think many people on the call will recognise some of those frustrations and those challenges, not just with managed migration, but with universal credit as a whole. I mean, essentially it is the same system being used, isn't it? So those things kind of carry over. I think it really helps, as you say, Tess, to just, really think about those experiences and center our thinking on how it actually affects the clients that we're supporting. Not to hammer home the point, but we all want people to claim they're entitled to claim. That's what we're all here to do. So yeah, we're all working towards that, but it's a very complex system, and we know there are things we can maybe do within it, as well as looking for how it can be sort of changed in the future. So yeah, thank you for sharing your insight. I think anything we can do, as you say, Tess, to kind of share, to have more advocacy, to have more input, and have that information kind of be available to people, just to explain what the system looks like on the ground. I'm really interested, Charlie, to hear about the more experienced job centre staff, having seen it all, really knowing how to deal with clients in that effective way. I always want to make the point that job centre staff are absolutely frontline homelessness workers. They're dealing, I'm saying they as if we don't have people on the call. I'm sure we have people from job centres on the call who recognise that they might be homelessness leads or experts just through having supported clients in that situation. But yeah, I mean, the difficulties, you know, the workload that they're going to be managing as part of the migration process, let alone the existing processes that are there. Obviously, as the Frontline network, we want to really reach out and make sure that all the resources that we have within our sector, we kind of talk about psychologically informed environments and making things more accessible and easy for people to engage with. You know, the more we can share that kind of best practice across the wider sector, I think that would make everyone's lives easier. So yes, thank you so much. I will unpin you. You are currently pinned on my screen. Maybe. There we go. Lovely. Julie, so on that point, yeah, really pleased to welcome you to the discussion. As we say, DWP job centre staff are absolutely on the front line of supporting people with homelessness, and we all want people to claim what they're entitled to and make that process as easy as we can within the structure that we all work in. I know we've got, you know, you're here really to represent the partnership working that we have. And how that works, whether there's good examples that we can share. So shall I, if I pop up the slides again and see if it lets us share the screen from where we were before?
Yeah, just want to say, as Zoe says, I'm a partnership manager. I'm not by no means a universal credit expert, I'd like to say. Obviously, the role of the UC is massive within partnership, but like I say, I'm no expert at all. Can go away with any questions that we can't answer between us. And I know we're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. I probably just disagree just slightly with Charlie, saying it's those experienced work coaches that seem to have that bit more empathy. I'd probably say it's whoever that individual is. They could be there a week of having that training. If they've got that empathy, they've got that empathy. It doesn't take years, if you know what I mean. But no, like I say, I know we're not perfect. I'm coming from it from the coastal job centres that I work with, and what we have in place, if you like, and the support that is out there also nationally, that you may not know of, you might know of, etc. So
yeah,
thank you, Zoe.
So I wondered, could I ask about the enhanced support journey? So we're coming up with lots of phrases today that are probably new to people if they're not familiar with managed migration.
Yeah.
So we talked about how, particularly thinking about the ESA claimant group, but also people experiencing homelessness with those just a challenge of not having a fixed address or not having a phone or the internet access that they might otherwise need. I think DWP has really recognised that there does need to be more support for that kind of group. So we talked about enhanced support journey. We've kind of used that phrase. So yeah, I wondered if you could talk us through some of those steps that are going to be followed to make sure we try and engage more with that group of clients.
From that one with the day one, obviously the enhanced support journey. So what that is, obviously you can read it off the slide, but what that actually is, obviously if they're coming across and they've still then declared that they've got that health problem issue, whatever that might be, they can then go on to this enhanced support journey. So it's a longer appointment, a much longer appointment than they normally get, but it's that three-way sort of case conferencing as well. So each job centre has on its site disability employment advisors. So they will have that case conference, if you like, with the customer and with the work coach. And it's just trying to sort of come up with, they'll help with coming up with sort of solutions and things like that to try and break down those barriers that the customer may have. But it's also giving that customer the opportunity to sort of choose which is their barrier that they think is their main one. To what a work coach or myself or anybody might think, say a customer's got 3 different barriers. It might have homelessness. Sorry, I said it, and that's so rude. They might have homelessness, a health issue, and maybe digital or something like that. It will be down to the customer to sort of say which barrier they want to break down first, because everybody's different and we try to, like I say, I know the disability employment advisors will try to get that coax it, if you like, out of the customer exactly which they think is their main barrier, etc. And then they'll do that gradually. You know, a lot of these customers that are coming through, especially like you said, the ESA ones, they may never work, and they may only see or go into that job centre or have that visiting team, or however they make that first initial claim. That may be it then. They might not ever go back into the job centre again or what have you. So it's down to obviously the individual, the main first obviously taking the claim, and that obviously that claimant commitment as to then obviously what regime and that they will fit in, but it'll be between that work coach, and they can always change as well. We're not saying that, you know, you might not say you have health issues now, but then you might get some health issues, but then vice versa as well. You may get better and then you may want to work and things like that. So there is that flexibility, but I think what is good is, like I say, they're able to bring in those disability employment advisors to help and support as well. And it's support for the customer, and it's a massive support for the work coaches as well, because obviously they're not trained, whereas a disability employment advisor got, I think it's a good few months of training. And they in turn, obviously, we have the work psychologist within the job centre as well for the customers. So there is lots of extra support, if you like. Plus, obviously, we've then got our external providers that can also then help, depending whether that's a bespoke course that we want to put on for just a certain amount of customers, or whether it is like a one-to-one support offer. But like I say, it's that work coach working with the customer and seeing what the actual customer wants.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I suppose it's similar to support agencies within the homelessness sector. You're kind of expected to be an expert in so many different areas.
Yeah.
So it's great to hear that there's, you know, there's sort of those specialisms within the job centre that can really focus on those issues. Just to come back to the enhanced support journey, we've highlighted there that everyone who's being migrated from ESA, so income related ESA, being migrated to universal credit through the managed migration move will have these additional steps, so this additional contact. Are there other vulnerable claimant groups that can qualify for that group? Maybe we need to go
anybody, to be fair, if they see that there is a difficulty or a problem or whatever, because there might be some other customers that may come over from JSA that have got a fit note in or anything like that. So yes, they may come across, and then obviously they'll then produce maybe other health conditions, disabilities or what have you. So like I say, it can be offered to anybody, but it's usually done, like I said, as they are obviously coming over from the managed migration.
Yes, you've got that information there already, haven't you? Yeah. Yes. Yeah, so really helpful to hear about the enhanced support journey. I think with ESA migration really ramping up from September onwards, we can all be a little bit prepared and understand sort of what those steps are and the timelines, and show that people will be contacted to try and encourage them. Because I think a point Charlie made, the kind of the fear of having that managed migration letter and just not wanting to engage with it and not taking those steps for a while. I think those additional contact points would help in some cases to help encourage them. So on our next slide, you'd kindly shared some helpful resources. I know you do a lot of work in the Blackpool area, and we have a local Frontline network partner in Blackpool through Street Life. So there's some information there relating to the work you do there. You can see there on screen there's a line called easement document, and it occurred to me the other day what a strange word it is, and it's not a word that we tend to use outside of universal credit. And it's one of these things that is a really useful tool. And I think where Charlie and Tess were talking about the impacts of not having the right kind of support and the right claimant commitments and things in place. Certainly I still come across, you know, homelessness workers it's definitely not the case that everyone knows about easements or how to request them or where they would apply. So I wondered if you could talk us through what an easement is and what kind of conditions somebody could qualify for having an easement on their universal credit claim.
Yeah, of course I can. Obviously, the easement, it says document there, but like I say, it is open for anybody to access on the gov.uk and obviously through the link. But an easement can be for anything, basically, like a bereavement, might be a bereavement of a partner or child, and that could be for like 3 months plus. There's temporary absent, obviously, if somebody goes abroad, but then there's obviously domestic violence. They can have, I think it's 13 weeks initially, but obviously then that's extended. It can be looked at and extended all the time. But even if it isn't sort of on the easement document, if you like, because a lot of things we know might not be covered, or sort of could be covered, but is that making sense? Is it clear? I think is probably what comes out across. But as long as that customer, whether they're with the support worker or whether they're not, makes it clear to the work coach, you know, they can put them in. It's down to that work coach. They don't have to go to their manager. They don't have to go further, etc. They can put that easement in from that customer then talking to them.
Yes, so the work coach has that discretion.
Yeah.
So an easement itself, if people aren't familiar with the term, because it's such an odd one, essentially it's saying if someone has a work commitment that they should be searching for work for 30 hours a week, an easement, so does it remove that requirement altogether for that
just
period?
Yeah, removes it altogether. And like I say, it'll be reviewed. I mean, sometimes we have had the cases where that customer's come back in less of the time that they have been given and say, right, I'm fine now. But again, it's down to the customer, you know, to say that. But no, it is a definite easement for that disconnection of having to look for work, etc. And like I say, there is, I mean, I've just touched on a few, but like you say, this homelessness, they could be in some sort of drug or rehabilitation program and things like that. So it is, but it's like I say, it is down to that customer to tell us. But then, because they're having the same work coach, they might think at that initial conversation or what have you that they can't open up as much. But I'd like to think over, because what they're doing, like I say, they are trying to stick to that same work coach. It doesn't happen everywhere. I am blessed on Coastal that even when one of the work coaches has leave, they book that appointment to this separate diary, but then they book the second appointment direct back to them, so they're not losing them, if you like. But like I say, I know that doesn't work everywhere. It depends how the office is set up. But like
I suppose
I say,
it kind of backs up that real kind of needing to build personal relationships, doesn't it? And having that support and the empathy with the client.
And like I say, then all things may come out then when they build that rapport. And that's what I've seen a lot, especially in a lot of the outreach we do where we've got longer times with the customers and things like that. But like I say, it's trying to build that rapport and being able for that customer to feel that she can or he can, you know, talk personally about their situation.
Yes, yeah, thank you. We've got a couple more minutes until we start our sort of Q&A session. We've got some slides that you'd shared with us. So we've got the administrative earning threshold and we've got some stuff on transitional protection. Are there either of those that you'd like to talk through with?
Obviously, the earnings threshold, obviously, you can read through that if you want, and it is on gov.uk, etc. It's just obviously, it was just to say that if you are getting customers that are saying they've got these letters about the earnings threshold that has gone up recently for the hours, so then obviously that's bringing more customers in, and that customer might be not the actual main claimant, it might be their partner that then, because of their partner's work or what have you, is under now what is the earnings threshold, then they're bought in as well. So we are getting a lot of customers sort of coming back to us and saying, what have I got to come into the job centre for? You know, it's my partner's claim, etc. So I just keep your eye on the earnings threshold, because I'm saying this personally, I think it'll go up again.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it will probably keep going up. There was a massive gap in it from obviously the April until obviously May just gone, but I think it will go up. Maybe not on a regular basis, maybe twice a year, but like I say, that's me personally, so don't quote me on that one. But I just think it is the way it's going, etc.
Yeah. So one to watch. Possibly less likely to affect clients experiencing homelessness if they're not in work, but it's adding to that wider picture, isn't it, of the additional workload and more support that's needed. Shall I pop forward just then to the transitional protection? I don't think we've touched on it too much, so it might be worth just having a very quick explanation of what this is.
Like I say, obviously we can go by Jane's here. Her entitlement for a tax credits or whatever the other benefit is £800, but then a universal credit says she's entitled to £600. That means that transitional protection of £200. So it'll make her payment the £800 that she was getting on tax credits. That transitional payment is not forever, as the increases and decreases within the universal credit, say the APR at the April, if there's a rise or whatever else, that will probably bring a protection amount down, etc. So there is some fluctuation with that. But like I say, it should never be worse off, if you like.
Yeah, I don't know whether we've really flagged that in today's session, that's the point of the benefit of migrating through managed migration is that people should not be worse off when they move to UC. If they would be, they get this transitional protection, although not forever, but it's there to soothe that.
And there is things that obviously might decrease that transitional protection payment as well. So that includes sort of like, a health condition worse than having a child, because they may get extra payments or what have you. So it could increase, it could decrease, but the actual amount, like I say, will go on the Richter scale, if you like.
It keeps that total, doesn't it?
I just wanted to explain before, obviously, we stop. Just on that first slide of mine was around the escalation routeways. Now, we have these on coastal, and it is sort of a national thing. My team sort of works Lancashire and Cumbria, but all other partnership managers should have these escalation routeways for yourselves, everybody out there, Citizens Advice, etc. All your housing agencies and housing options have access to. Now, if you don't have access or what have you to a partnership manager, because in some areas we are a standalone team, Lancashire, Cumbria, but a lot of partnership managers come under the employment, so it's employment and partnership managers as a one. But like I say, the all still should have these, and that's a direct contact for yourselves and your colleagues to access that direct office for the customer that is attached to, if you like. But like I say, it is a really good tool. I send it out every time we update it, because I send updates out about every 2-3 weeks. I try for with just a little bit of a snippet of information. Something like this might be on it about the transitional payment. It might be a bit about the enhanced support, etc. I'll do that. And like I say, if we do update, I'll send those escalation routeways out as well. So do ask your employment and partnership teams, your partnership manager, for copies of those escalation routeway documents.
Yes, I think that'd be really useful to share around with everyone, because we can work within the system as far as possible, can't we? But there's always going to be cases that we want to escalate. Thank you so much. Apologies if there's background noise. We've got some work next door. I hope that's not picking up too much. Ali, you've got your hand up, so that segues us nicely into a Q&A. Did you have a specific question for Julie?
Yeah, I have a few actually. I just want to first of all I understand that the DWP are now starting to work in a trauma-informed way. And I think that's it's not reached us in my area, which is down south. It's not kind of reached us insofar as, if we could clone you, Julie, because we've had conversations and I know the excellent work that you and your team do. One of my questions for you, Julie, though, was sometimes trying to get responses from work coaches or trying to get responses from team leaders or responses indeed from our partnership managers when that escalation process doesn't work. Have you got any kind of thoughts on how we can...
There's a national sort of partnership as well, and for each area. So we're classed as North Central randomly, but yeah, for each one you can go on and it says which is your area, and like I say, they will then have direct access and they will forward that query, whatever that query is, to us, and they sort of, it's as highlighted as urgent. We have to respond to that, not straight away, but as quickly as we can. And obviously, like I say, I'm no expert and stuff like that. So what I do is escalate it to those managers. But I have to go back, and whoever responds to that, they have to copy in the central team, so they know that it's cleared. Yeah, so they know it's cleared, etc. And like I say, I think once, if anybody's done that or what have you, then obviously, because it has gone to the partnership manager, because that's who it goes to for that area, they will then send out their escalation route ways, because that's what I do. If I do get any of the odd queries coming from the North Central box, I say this is the correct process in future. But obviously, I do put a sort of provisor on it. If you're not getting anywhere, obviously, come back to me. I can then, copy me into it, and I can then escalate it further.
And I think that's brilliant if we could clone you, Julie. But unfortunately, I think in practice that doesn't quite work in that way. But thank you. And it's hopefully, and I think that brings into what Charlie was saying, if I might be so bold as to just take a little bit, what Charlie was saying about it being really kind of hard work and almost, it's not the same in reality. And it isn't the same in reality, and it's almost a postcode lottery. So, but it's good to hear things like the trauma-informed training is coming through, and hopefully that filters through. So it'd be really interesting to understand some of the aspects in that in that training, which we probably haven't got time for now. But I think it also correlates with when you said, Julie, empathy kind of isn't taught. So it's not necessarily the older, it's more about empathy than the work coach. And
can I just say one other thing as well that Charlie mentioned about outreach? Outreach is brilliant. We have masses of outreach, coastal wise, especially in Blackpool. So some of those we work within the housing options, which is the local authority housing team. So they have the lived experience in there, they have NHS, they have mental health practitioners, and like I say, it's the housing options team. But besides that, we work alongside what used to be the ADA programme for the people with addictions. We work with Changing Futures and Oasis. But then again as well, I've got a couple of great youth hubs, which are great. But like I say, it's that getting out into other areas. And we cover so many different areas. And obviously Blackpool, I hate to say, we are top for a lot of very bad statistics for deprivation in the whole of the country. And I think that's why I think we do try and work well, because we do have that mass vulnerability base of our customers. So with us doing that outreach, they've always got those service users, the lived experience team, they've always got those contacts of who to go to.
Yeah, I was going to.
Sorry.
Sorry, I was going to kind of say to Julie, really, in terms of partnership working, we all use the phrase a lot, and it's quite a nebulous term. It's quite vague. So it's really interesting to hear you, when we talk about partnership working, what do we mean? And I think like co-location and outreach and taking a service to where people need it, so that you're not asking people to come to an open plan job centre where they may not feel happy, disclosing all the things that we've talked about, that you can have a break from your work search requirements for 2 months, 3 months, but for conditions that you might not want to talk about in an open plan office. So yeah, to go out and deliver services to people in that way, I think is really positive. And hopefully, we can't clone Julie, we can't magically make the same services available everywhere, but hopefully what today does is give people a bit of an overview of those services happen in some places. So if we'll get you the partnership manager contact details, go out to your partnership managers and see if the same kind of thing happens there. So yeah, that was a point I really wanted to mention. I think in terms of the Q&A, so thank you for people who posted the questions through the Q&A box. We've had a couple about whether support services need to be with their clients all the time, whether there can be sort of authority to act without the client there, and how those processes work. I don't know, Julie, whether you'd know offhand if there are specific standards and protocols that say when you need written confirmation or agreements and sort of permission to act.
I know, obviously, for those that have somehow made that claim initially, so whether that's a support worker helping them or it might be a family member helping them, but then obviously when it comes down to it, they can't get to the job centre. They don't, for whatever reason that might be, they just can't get into the job centre. So I know that we've had different third parties obviously bring information in, sort of like a lot of the ID stuff and like tenancy agreements and things like that. So I do know, there are processes and what have you, but I know that has been done where somebody else has brought them in, a partner's brought them in for them, etc. And whether they do then a call then, or it's just a signed letter or what have you, there probably is a lot of work still to be done. But then, like I say, we're fortunate we do have the visiting team. So if a customer can't make that claim at all, it's then requesting that visiting team to go out and make that claim with them, etc. We do try to, like I say, overcome everything. But like I say, and Charlie said, you might just get the wrong person on the wrong day.
It's almost knowing the magic word, isn't it? It's knowing what the phrases are that will get you through to that next stage. Ali, I know your hand's been up before Charlie's, but could I ask Charlie just to ask his question, as he's not spoken for a while?
It was just two things about the partnership ones where the partnership managers come to meetings with the different things. They do, and it's great, and we talk and we go through stuff. But there is a difficulty of it transferring down to the job centre. And the other thing you were just on about, yes, and it is, I only come across this literally a month ago, where we work with some chaotic clients and they don't always make their appointments, where we can be registered with the job centre and go in and explain it to the job centre that they couldn't make it. And that is absolutely brilliant. And I only found out about a month ago. And yes, we do it now, but it was literally a month ago I found out about it. And it is saying people need to know, support workers need to know, if they talk to the job centre can bring that you can actually come in for them, explain the difficulties, arrange another appointment so that you can bring the client into that appointment. And it is brilliant and it is good. But as I say, I only found out about a month ago and it was by luck.
Yeah, it is. And I think because we are quite outreachy, if you like, in Blackpool, they always sort of have that point of contact. Like I say, once I've done that, it might not necessarily be me. Like I say, it might be those work coaches that are doing that outreach, and it usually is, which is great. because then they just go direct to them. They'll do a Teams call, you know, they'll ring them up because they'll have the work phone numbers access. But like I say, it is a lot around that communication. I just think we are lucky at Blackpool. And initially, I think that came from, we had Blackpool Fulfilling Lives that finished a few years ago, which was lottery funded. So I think all of us come together then. So I'm talking 7-8 years ago when I first started partnership.
Sorry, Julie, sorry to interrupt. We're just clicking over onto 1 o'clock, and I'm sure people are ready for their lunch, as we all are. Ali, did you want to make a final point? I was going to ask for people to kind of give their top tips. I think, Charlie, that's a really good top tip, that if support agencies can be like a proxy, they can engage with the job centre on behalf of their clients. That's fantastic. Julie, I think it's all about partnership working and having those escalation routes where things don't perhaps work to plan. So, Ali, would you like to have a final point to wrap up for us? No pressure.
Well, yeah, on my top tip, if you like, I think really important is start using all this new language with clients so that they are not alienated as much. They've probably just got hold of the understanding the previous language. I think it's really important to make sure the DWP are aware of their contact details beforehand. Make sure everybody has the correct information, because that's how the DWP will be contacting people on that enhanced support journey. I'm going to put loads more stuff in the stuff that's to come out, because today was really, really short. And I think it's just making sure that people claim by the deadline day, because as Charlie said, if they don't, then their legacy benefits are going to stop 2 weeks after the deadline day. And then although they can backdate, there is going to be at least 2 weeks to cover, plus the 5 weeks of waiting for the UC payment.
Yes.
So those are my top tips. Make sure they've got everything ready to claim.
Yes, it's coming. I mean, September sounds like it's a few months away, but we know how quickly time can fly. Tess, can I invite you just to make a final tip or point if there's anything that occurs to you? Feel free.
Something that really helped me was somebody working with me to take the fear out of opening envelopes and opening text messages. So just, as soon as it comes through the door, open it and read it. As soon as you get the text message, open it and read it, and try and eliminate that fear of the unknown. Because as soon as you read it, you can deal with it.
Fantastic. A great tip for life as well. Thank you. Well, thank you, everybody. You may have noticed in the chat there is a link to a survey. So those who've stuck around till the end, if you've got time to just let us know some feedback about today's session and the wider conference, that's always really useful, just so that we can respond to what you need and what you want. But yeah, it just remains for me to say thank you to Charlie, to Tess, to Julie and to Ali for sharing your experiences and information today. We'll gather as many of the resources as we've mentioned and posted in the chat and make sure they're all sort of put into one place. So the recording will be made available in the course. There's quite a few sessions today, so there'll be a big job for our tech wizards to sort all the recordings and get everything uploaded onto the Frontline Network website at some point in the future. Ali, did you have one more final point?
Will all the questions be answered on a document after with the slides and things?
Yeah, good point. Yeah, so we've kind of answered some at a higher level. Some are a little bit too in-depth to go into, sort of technically speaking, today. But yeah, we'll pick up any Q&A and make sure we answer those as best of our ability that we can. So yes, thank you, everybody. Thank you for your contributions. Thank you for joining us today, and I hope you enjoy the rest of our conference. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye.